Good evening, everybody. We're going to start the meeting. We'll start with a salute to the flag. If everybody could please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first up we have opening comments. Commissioner Evans.
Well, thank you, Josh. I'm going to actually throw one in here that I hadn't written. For the first time in 19 years of dedicated service to the Board of Commissioners and this township, Josh Young has the gavel in his hand tonight. Let's hear it for Josh. Welcome. Glad you could join this meeting. Our meetings are neutral ground, a place to hear and be heard. Just a reminder, your questions or statements regarding agenda items only will be entertained under citizens to be heard. All other matters will be recognized at the end of the meeting during public comment. Well, in approximately 2 years, 68 days, 12 hours, and 20 minutes from now, our nation will celebrate 250 years of this grand experiment we call democracy. It might seem like plenty of time to prepare, but those 2 years, 68 days, 12 hours, and 20 minutes will go by in the blink of an eye. The work starts now as we start planning how to inspire and engage our community in the commemoration of America's founding and connecting Coun's stories to the nation's past, present, and future. Thank God, thank goodness, I should say, we're not alone in this. Well, at our May 9th Board of Commissioners meeting, Heather Reifer will be here to help us find our way. We're in for a treat. She presents Chester County America 250 in a way that will activate all of us, residents, businesses, and community groups, as we journey together to 2026. Speaking of America 250, the America 250 kickoff picnic at Spackman Davis Farm on June 29th is now an official Chester County America 250 PA event. That's a pretty big deal. Woohoo! Friends of Spackman Davis Farm nonprofit have been working on making this a very special day for Cowan Township. More to come. And Cowan keeps moving further into the spotlight. Last night, Cowan hosted a meeting of Chester County Council of Government. Congratulations to Jane Kennedy for working hard to make that happen. We can't wait for Jane to share all about it at our May 9th meeting. And remember, when we all work together, there's nothing we can't do. Spread kindness, everyone. Anger, grudges, and resentment are not worth our time or energy. Compassion, empathy, peace, and love, these are what make the world go round.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Next, citizens to be heard. I'll start in the building here. Is there anybody that would like to be heard under citizens to be heard? Seeing none, is there any on Zoom? All right, then we will move to the Township Solicitor.
Hi.
The first thing is an ordinance that we advertised for tonight. It's an amendment to Chapter 33 of the Cowan Township Code, which is titled Fire and Emergency Services. So we did advertise tonight's hearing. Any ordinance has to be advertised at least 7 days in advance. So we did that in the Daily Local News on April 17th, 2024. I also sent a copy of the ordinance for public inspection to the Law Library and the Daily Local News in an email on April 4th. I think we discussed this at the last meeting. This was something that Ray Stackhouse, the Director of Building and Life Safety, put together and asked me just to put it into an ordinance format. Because the township now has paid firefighters, it was necessary to amend this to designate what their responsibilities are. I don't think there were really many other changes other than just, codifying and laying out all the different duties of the individuals and people within the township that are dealing with fire and emergency services. So more of just a cleanup, again, to designate and point out what the jobs are for paid firefighters.
Ray, did you want to say anything?
No, Commissioner, just
Kristen said, most of these things were already in Chapter 33. All we did was update the language to reflect what our current program is today.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any questions here in the township building?
Great job on that, Ray.
Thank you.
And is there any questions on Zoom? Okay, so I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2024-02, amending chapter 33 of the township code titled Fire and Emergency Services.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Kennedy. Any other further questions? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Denise, do you need me to give you a copy to sign, or do you have it? Okay, just make sure. Right. The second thing is something that we also, I think, had a conversation at a prior meeting, although a while ago. And this is something that the Downingtown Borough and actually FEMA instituted or started the dialogue. So after the last flooding event that occurred with Hurricane Ida, there were numerous properties within Downingtown Borough and some properties obviously within Count Township that had been flooded. FEMA, in providing relief and money to those property owners, also identified that there's a program called the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. And what it is FEMA identifies properties that have been flooded and are likely to flood in the future, and they provide grant funding so that municipalities can acquire those properties and demolish the structure. So basically the goal is to stop the continual flooding of people that, homes that the people are living in. So Downingtown Borough had originally identified about 60 properties. One property is actually split between, in terms of the property boundary, the house itself is literally split in boundary line between Count Township and Downingtown Borough. It's owned by Robert and Joan McGlynn, and its address is 4 Delio Lane. It actually has a Downingtown mailing address. But when this house was built, at that time, the property owner could determine if they wanted to be a Count Township property for taxation or a Downingtown Borough. And I think it has to do with where the bedroom is located, or bedrooms. And in that case, they chose Count Township. So it actually is a Count property. But Downingtown Borough, having other properties in and around the area, had met with the property owners, and FEMA as well met with the property owners. The property owners are interested and would like to enter this program. So what happens is Downingtown Borough handles all of the grant process, the application process. They actually get the grant money. Downingtown Borough would then acquire the property. The property owners would deed it over to them. They would be compensated. Downingtown Borough would then retain a contractor to demolish the structures, and then they would bring the land back to grass. These property owners have two properties, one with the house, and the adjacent parcel to the north is basically a wooded lot. And they would like both parcels to be included because they're not going to continue to live there. There's no reason for them to own the vacant lot. Downingtown is willing to acquire both of those. After they acquire and demolish the structure, they would like to convey both parcels to Count Township. They have agreed to, Downingtown Borough has agreed to maintain the properties, which it's really going to be the one that's with grass that's going to need grass cutting. The wooded lot probably will not need much maintenance, but they would like Count to reimburse them for those maintenance costs. At the last time we talked about this, I think Paul had asked to find out what kind of tax revenue the township is getting from these properties, and I had provided that information. For 2024 is $138 for the one and $583 in taxes for the other. So that would be the one negative impact. But in terms of a positive impact, you have these property owners that, suffered loss, don't want to suffer it again, want to be part of this program and feel this is the best way for them to really recoup their investment in their home. Because if they tried to sell it, they'd have to disclose the flooding would probably devalue the property. So what the action item before you is, if you're willing to work with Downingtown Borough in this program, I prepared a memorandum. Actually, I didn't prepare it. The solicitor for Downingtown Borough, Max O'Keefe, prepared it. I modified it very, very slightly. But that's the action item. If you're willing to allow this, what I just described, go forward, you would need to enter the memorandum of understanding with Downingtown Borough.
Any questions from the board?
No, I remember we went through this, we saw all these documents, so I'm good. I'm good with it, and it's only fair to the people.
Key program. I mean, it's
Yeah.
trying to mitigate future losses and future, outlay to property owners who are flooded.
Okay, no questions. Anybody here in the audience have any questions? Anything on Zoom? Okay. I will entertain a motion then to authorize the vice president to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Downtown Borough for participation in a FEMA project for 4 Delio Lane.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tendero. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you. The last thing that I have, and actually I'm going to call upon Jim Hagney, who is here representing in his capacity as a civil engineer for the Jeffries Family Farm LLC. I will tee it up, so to speak, and then he can take over as far as providing you any additional details concerning the plan. So what I have before you is a proposed motion to grant approval of the preliminary/final subdivision and land development application for Jeffries Family Farm LLC. They own the property at 3982 Lincoln Highway, which is tax parcel 39-4-138.1A. The property is 0.932 acres. It's on the south side of Lincoln Highway, east of Marshallton Thorndale Road. They seek to remove the existing temporary greenhouse and improve the property with a 3,928 square foot greenhouse, an outdoor garden display, 8 off-street parking spaces, sidewalk. They're going to connect to public water and public sewer, and they're going to obviously install stormwater management facilities. The property is in the Thorndale Village District in the Lincoln Highway Overlay Zone 1. The township consultants have reviewed the plans. They had issued review letters that are stated in the motion. On December 19th, 2023, the Planning Commission recommended the board grant the approval, subject to them complying with any outstanding conditions in the consultant's letter. So what I did was prepare a decision that grants approval for 2 waivers. One allows them to have it be preliminary/final approval, and the second is to not require meadow to be used as part of pre-development impervious area calculation. So that's part of the stormwater code. The conditions would be basically comply with all terms of the ordinance, except those 2 that I just referenced, comply with any outstanding comments in the review letters. The one thing they are asking, because it is in the Lincoln Highway Overlay District, that gives the board the authority to modify the otherwise applicable parking requirements. And Jim can talk to you about what the code would require, but they basically are asking to allow the plan to be approved with just 8 spaces. And they, I guess, believe that that's a sufficient number for the use. The one thing that is shown on the plan is that currently today, there's a driveway that is shared with the property. Is it to the west or to the east? To the west, which is the Midas dealer, I guess the Midas shop. So Mr. Hagney has provided to me an email from Midas saying they are willing to grant an easement to formalize that. I guess there was an easement and it expired. So they are willing to reaffirm and re-record basically that easement. But because we don't have that now, when I wrote this, basically Mike Schneider from Pannoni, the traffic engineer, recommended that we say that if they don't get that, then they'll be required to complete a full traffic study and then implement improvements for the site driveway. I guess there's a concern about traffic turning left out of that. They would like the traffic to go to the light and then turn left, and that's at the Midas driveway, I guess, right? Okay. The other conditions are obtaining all the approval from the CTMA, paying a fee in lieu of open space in the amount of $3,358.44, executing the standard development agreements and financial security agreements, reimbursing the township for any outstanding consultant costs, and then the other ones are all just the boilerplate. So I don't know if anybody has questions. Jim, obviously the plan is up there. I believe the township engineer is participating remote in case anybody has a question for him. But Jim, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Thanks. We're here really to ask for approval. I think all of you folks know the site. You've been living with it now for a few years, and we're just at this point, finalizing the plan. There's one item though that we did want to discuss, and The township engineer has requested a loading space. And the loading space, as per the ordinance requirements for the subdivision land development ordinance, is what we would consider to be on the large size, given the very small delivery trucks that Daniel deals with, getting, stuff from his farm, which is approximately 3 miles away, to the site. He doesn't really deal with large delivery trucks, like similar to something that you would see at a Wawa. So what we're asking for is, maybe we could revisit that and take a look at eliminating that loading space area as it dips into the paving as part of this approval. But we obviously would do that at the discretion of the board. We still have other areas where we can offload vehicles, and we're looking at, providing that area in another spot.
Lowell, with your cursor, can you show us where that is on the plan? I didn't see it.
It's to the south of the
Yeah,
building, directly underneath the building.
Okay.
Is the loading zone that's shown on the plan in an area that's parking spaces, or it's separate?
It's a separate
It's
area,
separate, okay.
and it's not in an area where there are any parking spaces. It's, if you can, now that Lowell's enlarged it, you can see it's the proposed 12 by, I believe, 45 loading area. And it's directly, if you look, there's a dumpster pad that's just to the southwest of the proposed building, and directly south of that proposed building is where it's the box with the little, notch cut below the building.
So is the recommendation or is the suggestion that just gets smaller? You still use that area, or are you planning on using one of the parking spaces to unload?
We would just be probably pulling a truck alongside the building. That Daniel can explain the size of the trucks that he's typically dealing with, but we're not really looking at anything larger than a box truck.
But like I said, is it going to be just up against the building? And will then, if that's the case, will other vehicles be able to circulate around the back of the building?
No, I think it would actually be to the side, and there is still room for vehicles to circulate around the building. It's
And
just-
I'll do the best I can for people online, but could you go over to the screen and just show us, because I'm still not grasping where that is because I can't see the cursor.
We have the proposed building here.
Mhm.
To the south of the building is the proposed 12 by 45 foot loading space.
Okay.
We also have a dumpster pad over here. What we're proposing is that we would still have an area for a truck to pull over, would have vehicles pull around the truck, but we just wouldn't do the bump out beyond that existing curb. What we have here is the existing curb formerly from that shared pad, that's on the other side of Vargas. And what we're just asking for is, the ability that you can get two cars in front of here in the event, that you're going to need to want to pass through as the truck's doing the off. So we're asking for, just that reduction of the loading space area.
In entirety or shrinking it?
Shrinking.
Do you have a specified dimension that you're thinking of?
Well, it would probably be something like an 8 foot by 20 foot area that could be stripes off on the paving.
Kristen, how do we?
Yeah, the way your loading regulations read, it's really up to the township to listen to the type of use and the type of things that get brought to the property, so to speak. If you recall, we had this conversation with the apartment building. I can't remember the name of it right now, but we had that conversation where they're like, we don't have big truck other than maybe delivering furniture the first day. It's mainly Amazon trucks, and so you do have the discretion the way your loading regulations are written. So I think, especially in the Lincoln Highway overlay, you have that flexibility in addition. So I think, if and Mr. Jeffries was saying that's basically like an F-150 truck sometimes, or van. I mean, that it's
usually pickup trucks and vans,
Right.
right? At the most, yeah.
By comparison,
Yeah.
for example, when I get gas at a giant gas station that's over by Westchester, and there happens to be a tractor trailer
Yeah.
that's delivering all of the fuel, which happens frequently, there's no loading spot for that tractor trailer to just come in. They pop in, they dump a bunch of cones down, they're pouring the gas into the underground storage tanks, and then they get done and they leave. This would be far less of an imposition than, however often they get their gas delivered, which seems to be something like twice a month or more at that particular giant. We're looking at,
Yeah.
basically a vehicle with some flashers on, when he's offloading stuff that he gets from his farm, puts it into the building, and he goes on his way.
And if the board's comfortable with it, what you could do is you could just agree, we could revise the motion to say that you're willing to allow them to reduce the size of the loading zone, but the exact specification should be something that's determined with the township engineer's input, something like that.
Okay.
Because we want Lowell to understand, maybe what the right dimension is and where it's located. So
Okay.
that could be something you could do.
Can we just add that?
We could add it.
Okay.
So, and again, I don't really want to overcomplicate, what it is we're doing, other than that would be the only request in addition to fully complying with the decision as it is drafted.
Talk about just the parking and reduction, just for
Sure.
a minute about that.
Yeah, no, and Daniel can also, this is a unique area that what we're looking at is here, we have a combination of people that are actually driving in and pulling in and parking and shopping, but we also get a lot of foot traffic and bus traffic, and public transportation traffic. So that this store is, geared towards a combination of those two. And as such, given what Daniel's seen with the level of business that he's running, the 9 spaces, the 8 spaces that we are asking for a reduction is down from the 13 that would be required. But it's essentially, we're dealing with square footage of this building that is part of a, partially a greenhouse. So it's not functioning in a similar vein as a full, build out for the similar square footage.
Anybody else have questions?
How often do you make deliveries during the week? Is it
Typically, it's like every morning, you go to 10 to 6. So
Mhm.
typically when I'm on around 8, leaving the farm in my pickup truck or in my van, and just coming on down with that day's produce, that day's egg, that day's meat from the main farm. Parking is basically all loaded.
So I want to be clear because we want people online to hear. So when you answer a question, if you can come to the microphone, because people online can't hear you.
Store hours are 10 to 6, so typically I'm leaving my farm around 8 o'clock with my pickup truck or my 20-foot F-150, cargo van, and bringing down the day's produce, the day's eggs, the day's meat, and basically parking at the store, stocking my store for the day, and then I'm there for the day.
and so that vehicle actually stays on site, right?
That's
all
my
day?
personal vehicle. Yes, that would just stay on site.
And it wouldn't occupy one of the 8 spaces, would it, for parking?
It will, and that's part of the required parking. So, in essence, in essence, he could pull into a parking spot, which he's entitled to do because, we have to deal with an employee on site. He can offload from that parking spot and leave the vehicle in the parking spot. So that's the nature of the daily deliveries that he's doing from his farm to the storefront.
You
So
could
there's
also
n-
park in the
that's what I said.
loading zone, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Well, you could, but it's,
Obstruction.
we could do that as well.
I'm sure weekends are busier than weekdays, probably sometimes. So if you see that you need more parking, you could always move your vehicle to the rear.
That's what's one of those, in the back of the market that you can park so that you can
There's
keep these
actually-
8 spaces open?
Seems like there's like 20 feet in the back.
Yeah.
For the turnaround where that loading dock is now shown. So that's what I thought. You really don't even need the loading dock in addition to the existing 20 feet of blacktop that's there. I'd rather just make that loading dock more grass
Or more
and basically
parking?
just parallel right next to it as opposed to putting more concrete down. Because it is 20 foot wide. I mean, seems to me it's plenty of room for another car to drive right around me.
Jim, if the board was willing for the parking thing, how many more parking, if they got rid of the loading zone, how many more parking spaces could you put back there? Could you put 2 or 3 spaces back in that area or no? Parallel park?
Not comfortably without, what we're trying to do is reduce that impervious bump out into
Okay.
the existing curb area. So I would not want to put additional parking spots back there, and I don't think you can comfortably fit them. I would, however, say that if a vehicle that's going to offload some groceries in the morning before the store opens and the hazards are on, that to me is a more comfortable use of that space there.
Well, and I mean, you're the business owner, so you know if 8 doesn't work out for you, you're going to lose customers. So we're taking your word that that's what's
You're gonna have to
good
come
enough
up with an
for you.
alternative, yeah.
Yeah,
mean,
so-
what we don't want is the traffic to go onto Lincoln Highway and then create a hazard. So, well, I guess it'll be, we hope you're successful and we hope that the 8 spaces work. I mean, this is for the board, but
And I appreciate you're trying to maintain pervious coverage.
Mhm.
Not that, you know, being a farmer, you would care about the land or anything.
So, Kristen, we could add in a motion to, or into the approval that he worked with the engineer.
yeah, that you're
Okay.
you're comfortable with him reducing the size of the loading zone as it's shown on the plan,
Mhm.
but and the exact dimension should be determined through consultation with the township engineer. Does that work?
Right, and because we have some minor plan revisions, touch-up items. For instance, we do have a DEP letter of exemption on the sewer, and Gilmore is asking that we put that DEP code number on the plan. So we have a couple of minor housekeeping items. We could certainly work with the township engineer on that loading dock area as part of that prior to the plans being recorded.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Does anybody on the board have any other questions?
No.
Lowell, do you have anything that you wanted to say?
No, I think the remaining item of concern that I had was with the traffic. Like Kristen mentioned that. As far as the loading space, we can certainly entertain that. There is that driveway that passes around the back, and there should be space there that they can park a smaller vehicle without having to do quite the extent of the loading area that's shown on the plan now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from board or staff?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about, where this is located. This is in the Lincoln Highway, what will be the real heart of the new Thorndale Village. I believe this is just to the west of the lot that Farmhouse should be trying to get approval to build soon. Almost across from where the Cohen lot is going to change. So it seems like a very good business to come in there.
Yeah.
Well,
Especially with that light there. I mean, having that light at Midas, if they're agreeing with you there, that's beautiful. So,
Yeah, and I mean, we've looked at that stone lot for
yeah.
20 plus years now.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to see something on it. I'm also a plant junkie, so I will be there quite often, probably. So, anything else? Does the public here in the township building have any questions? Is there anything on Zoom? Okay, so I will then entertain a motion to approve Jeffers Family Farm LLC motion for final, it would be preliminary final.
Mhm.
Land development for 3982 Lincoln Highway with the edits that were mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tindaro. Any further questions at all? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Dan, when's the corn coming in?
Yeah. Thank you.
That was.
Do you need me to stick around doing anything else? Okay. Thank you, everybody. And Denise, you can have them sign the version, and I'll just swap out the one page. We can keep it where the signature page is the same. That way we'll get it to you. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a
Thank you,
good night.
Kristen. Have a great night. All right. Next up is engineering. First is Reed Street project update.
Good evening, Commissioners. Just to give you a little update on the Reed Street project, over the past week, the roads around the project site were milled and then overlaid, so all of the paving is done. So that was a pretty exciting milestone. That really essentially makes the project substantially complete. And what we'll do over the next week is get a punch list together for all the final odds and ends to be completed. But essentially, the Reed Street project is wrapping up, and I think that was pretty successful. And after we close out the project, then we'll work on getting the final grant reimbursement applications in.
Has anybody been up there yet? Johnny, have you been? What's it look like up there? I'll have to go up this weekend and see. And they have drainage now too, right?
That's correct. Yes, there's a storm sewer system that should really help the residents that are on the downgrade side of the road. It should keep the water from coming through their properties. It'll direct it into the pipe system and get down the slope that way.
Good.
That's great.
Any other questions on Reed Street?
No.
Okay. Next, storm sewer condition assessment.
Yes. So we've essentially concluded the fieldwork component of that. So our staff, in conjunction with Public Works and the Sewer Department, they went out and looked in the field, did an assessment for roughly 1,100 to 1,200 of drainage inlets and pipes, and that's for each of those. So a total of 2,300 to 2,400 drainage features were evaluated for their condition, and we have photographs and notes for each of those. And then the next steps on the project will be for us to take all that and do a complete update on the online GIS, so that you can actually log into this and pan around and zoom in and out and check out all these features in the GIS. And then we'll also be putting together a written report that basically summarizes the effort that we've gone through. And we anticipate that the report should be completed by the end of June, between the updating of the GIS and preparing the report.
Great. Any questions from board members?
No.
I'm looking forward to reading that report and moving forward on that. So, any other questions or comments? All right. Seeing none. Thank you for that, Ross.
Sure. Thank you.
Next, we have ordinances. An ordinance amending Chapter 128 of the Callan Code. Don, do you want this?
Absolutely, and I believe if Ross is still on, just in case there's any overly technical matters, I'll defer to our expert on that. But this ordinance it's essentially a change in EPA limits for certain types of materials that make their way to through the sewer system to the treatment plant. It's the local municipality has the enforcement authority, and establishing and updating the local limits to match the EPA standards would allow the township to enforce if necessary. This would really only apply to industrial and commercial properties, so this would not be residential. This is for industrial manufacturing that may be involved with certain types of materials that would find their way, and it lowers the limits to allow for safe treatment of that product before it's released. Is there anything I'm missing, Ross?
No, that's the gist of it. Yeah, we're basically updating the township standards to match those of DARA, and those really come down from EPA. So it makes it a little more restrictive, so that these industrial users have to complete their pre-treatment so that they don't exceed the values allowable for these materials, which are typically heavy metals. So they have to get those out of the sewer flows before they go to the treatment plant.
Okay. Any questions from board members?
No.
Any questions from the public here in the building? Anything online? Okay, then I will entertain a motion to approve ordinance amending Chapter 128 of the Callan Code titled Sewers, Section 128-18, titled Promulgation of Rules by Callan Township in order to adopt as part of its rule and regulations the local limits contained in the Downtown Area Regional Authorities Resolution 2024-02 adopted March 18th, 24.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Kennedy. Any further questions? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 4-0.
I was gonna ask if that's like late seventies heavy metals or like more like eighties and nineties, you know, we're talking Deep
It was
Purple or
grunge.
Metallica. Oh, grunge, okay. Now it makes sense. And Don knew I was gonna say that.
All right. With that, next on to resolutions. We got 2024-10, Section 902 of the Act 101 Recycling Grant Program. And Donald, I look to you again for this one.
Absolutely, and I do want to credit the municipal authority. Worked very hard, built a very positive relationship with officials at the state level in submitting this grant application. This is before the board for final approval before they click send. But from what we understand, quite frankly, from the state's perspective, the work being done within that authority is a model that other municipalities are being held to. So it's substantial. This grant, we can apply every 2 years through the recycling program in order to receive the grant. In coordination with the state, we will be, if approved, we'll be submitting for a updated chipping truck. This would be for the chipping program. The current vehicle is a little out of date, and this would greatly improve not just the effectiveness of the use, but also it's a larger size, so it would take less trips. They wouldn't have to run to unload and then come back, so it would speed up efficiency. In addition, they'll be applying for additional carts, both 65-gallon and 95-gallon recycling carts, which will be stored for residential use. And finally, there was a component of the grant. There is a 10% match that from the local level. However, 2 years ago, part of the funding for items that were purchased exceeded the grant cost by about $20,000, and the state is allowing us to apply that overage toward our local match this time. So I know this took a lot of work. I reviewed the application with Mr. Gill, and it's quite the process. But we met with the state officials, and they were very pleased with the quality and completeness of the application.
Great.
So what I'm reading here, the total grant amount would be $170,682. Is that correct?
No, it's a little. Exactly. No, yes, I'm sorry, I was confusing with another one. Correct.
Okay. So when would we find out about the award?
The preliminary review from the department could take a little time, but I can say the feedback from the state officials incredibly positive. To essentially, obviously, we'd wait until we get the approved funding, but we can start taking a look at some of those trucks and finding something that looks good.
Okay.
Excellent.
So any further questions from the board?
No.
Any from the public here in the building? Anything online? All right. Then I will entertain a motion to approve resolution 2024-10, submitting a recycling grant application to the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection for a municipal recycling grant program under section 902 of Act 101.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Evans, seconded by Commissioner Tindaro. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. And now we have the conditional use escrow amendment.
Thank you. And yes, this I have to credit Mr. Stackhouse and our solicitor, Kristen Camp, for working hard on this resolution. I think it's a positive change. I know the board is familiar with what brought this before your consideration this evening. And I know we discussed this the workshop earlier this month. Essentially, this would just modify and update the fee schedule to change the conditional use from an application fee, a one-time fee of $4,000, to a residential application fee of $250 and a residential escrow fee of $1,000, a commercial application fee of $500, and the commercial escrow of $2,000. The major change is, in the past, the $4,000 was a one-time, and establishing the escrow, if an applicant would go over that set amount, we would be able to recoup those funds. And on the other side, if it doesn't cost the total amount, those funds would be due back to the applicant, so they'd be paying their fair share.
It levels the playing field.
We believe it does.
Yeah.
We believe it's a positive change and is fair for the work being done.
Absolutely.
In the past, the solar farm that got a conditional use approval, that was over a year of hearings. So that $4,000 went pretty quickly, and
Yeah.
we never recouped what the actual cost was. for
Right.
us.
I believe Mr. Stackhouse is still with.
Right.
Did they cover that well, or anything that you'd
Yeah.
like to add?
No, absolutely. Again, it was brought to our attention, as the commissioners know, that, for the small business owner, it really wasn't equaling out. So we did try to do, some research and look at, what the fees were for, a smaller project. And we do believe, and again, we'll continue to monitor it, but we do believe with this application fee and with this escrow, then the township won't lose money. But it won't be a burden on some of the small businesses that we're starting to see, small and medium-sized businesses that we're starting to see come in for potential conditional use.
Thanks for all your work on this, Ray.
Yeah, no problem.
Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, any questions from anyone here in the audience? How about online? No. Okay, so we will entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2024-11, amending the Resolution 2023-01 fee schedule to revise the residential application and commercial applications for conditional use and escrow fees.
So moved.
Second.
So we had quick second. So moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Kennedy, and a third by Commissioner Tindaro. Any other questions?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Now on to Township Manager, Arlie Grant, pre-application.
Thank you very much. And I have two very quick items, really, to seek final guidance before I click send and for the first one especially. I know at the workshop we discussed Arlie. It's a red light enforcement grant program through PennDOT. There's no match for this this fund from the local standpoint, though they do prioritize effective projects at a lower cost. Lower is, I think, really based on the impact it's going to have in the community, and what I have put together and what I'd like to submit following feedback from the board would be two sections of Lincoln Highway, one in the east, one in the west, that over the past decade or so has had a high number of pedestrian and bicycle impacts from vehicles. And results of that largely are based on insufficient or poor lighting and insufficient or poor bicycle or pedestrian markings on the roadway. Both those uses would fit directly into the Arlie program scope of eligible projects. It would be a significant improvement to those areas, and would be, I think, a good step towards a larger improvement plan of the corridor as a whole. Working through final costs associated with those, Ross was very helpful in providing some feedback on what the going rate for things are, conduit and light poles and markings getting some final feedback on that, and it would be due at the end of the month. This is just a preliminary application. The process would allow for PennDOT then to contact the township, work through the preliminary application, make some any recommended changes to that application before submitting the final application in June. That would require board approval before we would submit that application. The preliminary is just seeing if this would be something that the department would be willing to consider. I do believe it would have a large impact long term, especially with some of the planned developments approved, and tonight with the farm stand, people are going to be biking and walking towards those areas. We're going to have increased bicycle movement along the roadway, especially with some of the trail projects and development, and improving the safety along this corridor would be greatly enhanced from the increased lighting. So really just seeking any feedback from the board on if this is matching the vision that you have for the township.
I just wanted to say something here that, it wasn't that many months ago, this board sat here and threw out a term called Vision Zero, which is addressed in this. And nobody said, hey, who wants to go out and look into this? A couple weeks later, get an email from the chief that he's had an officer working on that and doing the studies of how many, I believe we've had at least 20,
Correct.
pedestrian to car
Wow.
in that area. And the chief just took that and ran with it. And then the township manager took it and ran with it. And I'm just, I'm very kind of choked up here. I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, this is how you start to become a destination and make things safer and attract more good businesses. Now I'll shut up.
No.
Well, thank you very much. I'll make sure that's submitted by the deadline.
Thank
Um,
you, Don.
Well,
The other matter I have this evening, before we purchased the honorary street name designation signs that were approved by the board, wanted to get a review of the mock-up, the proof essentially. And I know
Design.
we'd be able to submit those, get them back relatively quickly, and then begin planning the event.
I just have one question. What's the PB for George Eggleston?
Oh.
I know it wouldn't all fit on there.
Okay.
So that was abbreviated because obviously you could only get so many letters or characters on the sign.
We could have got more letters on there. I just put it to match the sign that's under there. So if we either put far as Foundry Street and you'd have put the Bishop on there, the top sign would have been that much longer than on top.
What's the BP?
That's what I said. I think
for?
everybody's gonna ask that same question. What's the BP?
Right,
She's
what's
asking
the
the same
BP
question.
for?
I mean, is it necessary to put there? I mean, because everybody's gonna ask, what is BP?
No.
Like,
Well,
I
that's-
didn't know, Lorraine didn't know, and I'm sure most of your,
Well, when I looked it up, it was Bishop.
Right.
So
Can
I mean,
I,
it's
excuse me.
totally up to you what you would like.
can I
on it.
just share this with the family and get their projection on it? Because
sure.
it's something they gotta really live with and adore, but
Yep.
I mean, it may just be something that doesn't necessarily have to be there.
Okay. I mean, if
Before
you
you
just want,
order anything, yeah.
just let me know.
I will.
Yeah,
Let me know.
thanks, Chris.
Email me, call me,
'Cause
and then we can.
Nobody's gonna know what that means.
No, I understand. Yep.
No problem.
Just a question. So the other thing I dedicated to, I don't know that I love that as the street sign.
But it's not the street, we'll only go over top of the street.
Right,
sign.
but what I'm saying is it's
I
saying
thought it said
dedicated
in
to-
memory of, I thought it was a
or
memorial.
honorary, something
Or,
honorary.
yeah.
So or
And
in,
Maria.
when I looked up what Philadelphia does,
Mhm.
they put like Patty LaBelle Way, or just pick a name, Jane Kennedy Way, or something that's an honorary thing.
Right,
I'm
more
just
than
not sure that
dedicated.
dedicated to it. I don't know if people will understand what that means
Yeah.
either. So
Perhaps drop the dedicated to, and on the one put Bishop
honor
in
of.
smaller font on top, Bishop George B. L. Eggleston Way, and then on the other one, Thelma B. Vaughn Way. I think they're beautiful. I think you did a
I
great
like
job
that. I
with
like
it.
it. I like
So
that
start
symbol.
there.
You just tell me what you want and I'll get it on the sign.
what does anybody think? Do you think the dedicated to is good, or should we make it like it's an honorary street?
Honor of.
I like the way.
I like the
I like the
honorary
way a
or
lot.
memory of, more of a memorial thing. I have to look at it.
Let's, I guess, for next meeting, let you talk to the family how they want
And
the
see
name,
how they like to see
and then
it.
Okay.
people think about what you wanted to, whether you wanted to
Get back
say,
yeah.
Because I think in honor of would fit up top too.
Yeah,
In honor of. Yeah.
when I was looking them up, they had both dedicated and honor of.
Yeah,
So
I like it.
Okay, in honor of.
So we'll put that on our to-do list for the next meeting, and then
Okay.
if you want to talk to the family and just get what they would prefer.
See, just to
Yeah.
get it, include them in it a little bit.
so everything else looked good with
Oh,
the
that's
township
perfect. I
love
seal
that
above it
sound,
and
yeah.
everything like that.
Really nice work.
Because it's actually gonna go right over top of the Foundry Street sign, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the was just pretty much trying to shorten it down, the name, so it didn't stick over top of the Foundry Street
Street
sign.
sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's work on that for next
Okay.
meeting.
Give me a
We got
time now.
homework for that.
And if
Thank you.
Thank you.
we could provide any samples, we can provide from the feedback before next meeting, maybe we can put that together. We can
Yep.
talk tomorrow.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Yep, will do.
if anybody comes up with something, send it to Don, and we could get a mock-up of it.
Okay,
Okay.
That'll work.
thank you.
Anything else on that? I think this is a good time to get it right, because there'll be other ones, coming.
Coming.
So, we want to make sure they're standardized all across the township.
Right.
So,
Good.
Eventually, there's gonna be a Joshua Young Way. So we've got to make sure it's right.
I don't know about that, but we'll see.
Josh Boulevard.
Boulevard, yes. Okay, so we have some homework on that, and let's do that. Don, anything else?
Nothing at this time. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Next on our agenda is board minutes to approve. It's the April 11th, 2024 meeting. Are there any comments or questions from board members? Or
No,
corrections, I should say.
didn't see any.
All right, then
Wonderful
I
job,
will,
Denise.
I'll entertain a motion to approve the April 11th, 2024 board workshop minutes.
So moved.
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Tendero, seconded by Commissioner Kennedy. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Motion passes 4-0. Next up, financial department. Lisa, welcome.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Okay.
Good, good.
Awesome. Thank you for letting me zoom in tonight. We are in really good position. Along with our investments and interest earnings, we are well above the 2024 budget in that department, so that will assist in some of our projects. Reminder and a thank you to the taxpayers and the escrow companies. We are 88% collected as of today. We are waiting for 2 more large deposits from 2 escrow companies. Hopefully we'll get them by Wednesday, which coincidentally is the last day for the discount period for your tax bills. At that point, should they come in, we should be at about 93% collected for our real estate tax. So thank you very much for being diligent with that. The financials are in your packet. We are well within the 25 to 30% in revenue and likewise with expenses. So that is commendable again to the staff. Thank you very much. And that is all I have on the financial end, other than the check run.
Lisa, just a question on the audit. When do we intend to see that?
CTMA should be good for the beginning of May and hopefully will be at middle of June.
Okay.
Yep.
Are there any other questions for Lisa on the financial report?
Thanks for doing a great job as always.
Great job, Lisa.
Thank you so much. Love it. Love it.
Okay, with no other questions, we'll move on to the check run 51,873 to 51,946 and a manual check of 302.
So
Any-
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So moved by Commissioner Tindaro, second by Commissioner Kennedy. Are there any questions on the check run?
None.
No? Any from the audience? Anything on Zoom? All right, I will then move to approve checks 51,873 to 51,946 and manual check 03. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. All right, now on to monthly director reports. We're going to start with Building and Life Safety. Mr. Stackhouse?
Commissioners, thank you. You should have my report in front of you. We continue to be busy with permits. Obviously, summertime's coming, and along with that, property maintenance issues tend to jump up. So we are, working on that diligently and continue to monitor the community for those violations. Our residential projects, both my place and the Willows, continue to be busy. And as a matter of fact, my place is working on bonding phase 3, which will be, I'm not sure how many additional townhomes are in phase 3, but that's one of the last 2 phases where they'll start putting the townhomes up. The Willows are starting to complete the last 3 apartment buildings in that complex, and we're in there doing inspections on a regular basis. I haven't really heard back from FEMA on our reimbursement for all the IDA work. I did reach out to them about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they just said it continues to be reviewed. Emergency services, actually, I do want to throw out a shout out to Chief Elias. He's been helping me work on the civil service, work with the Civil Service Commission on changes to incorporate the firefighter program. I believe we're trying to set up a meeting with that group in May to approve the changes to the civil service rules. And soon after that, I'm hoping maybe at the end of May to have it on your agenda so that we can get those approved. The goal is to do an advertisement, to do testing for 2 full-time firefighters, and hopefully get a list. We can pull a couple additional part-timers in early July. The last thing is, staff continues to take training. Ryan Lewis, the assistant fire marshal, just passed his fire plans examiner 1 and 2, and Fire Inspector Mark DeVita is waiting on his results. Tom Urvelli is another part-time fire inspector. He's enrolled in the Fire and Life Safety Educator class in the fall at Bucks County.
Thank you, Ray. Any questions for Ray?
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Next up, Ingleside Golf Course. Hello.
Hi,
Nicole.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello. I appreciate your patience with me. I did not get a director's report to you guys. I just did not get time. And I appreciate your patience. But I will tell you, we had a great month, best month of the year so far, but mostly just because the weather's turning a little. Expecting a hard frost tonight, unfortunately. But, we still had 1,300 rounds of golf in March.
Wow.
Which is great. brought in about 50,000 in revenue. So it was a great month. And so far this month we've been on a roll as well. A couple really warm days, but the grass is growing and we're mowing like crazy. I mean, there's 150 plus acres out there to maintain. So we're scrambling around mowing. Most of it in 11-foot swaths.
11-foot mower.
Really great.
Yeah.
Hoping a lot. This week, or a couple weeks ago, our new irrigation controllers were installed to help us automate the irrigation system. It's already saved me hours and hours each day where I can focus on building my actual agronomic plan and the business plan for the golf course. It really freed me up. So it's been amazing. I'm glad that's done. Local driving range shut down, and we've had a large influx of golfers playing at our driving range, which we welcome with open arms. They're showing up in droves, and actually interfering with my mowing schedule.
Oh, goodness.
But I'll take it. I'll take them all. We're gonna order more range balls because they're sending them out there. They're all out in the field already. So that's exciting news. Sad for them, awesome for us. But no, things are good. And I think if the weather can decide to actually be spring, I think we're gonna blow up soon. I think everything's gonna take off. The golf course looks amazing. It really does. It really turned around in the last couple of months. So we're excited.
How was the day of the eclipse? I wanted to ask you.
So we had an outing, a small outing for members on the 8th, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yes.
April 8th. Yeah, was the eclipse. We had a small outing.
Yes.
And it went just as planned. It was perfect. We teed off and everyone finished right around 2 o'clock.
Great.
We had a putting contest on the putting green, which one of our lady members won, and was
Great.
very excited. Got lots of prizes, and then we all watched the eclipse.
Okay.
From the
Did you
golf
take
course.
pictures?
Of the eclipse or of
Or
the
just
tournament?
of everything?
Yes, absolutely. And most of
The
them were
people
posted.
and the eclipse.
Yes, the tournament we did take a ton of pictures. They're posted on our Facebook page.
Oh, good.
I will
Okay,
make sure.
thank you.
I'll make sure Abby gets them for anything she wants to distribute. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm
and
glad to hear it was
yeah,
a
it was
success.
exciting. So this weekend is our first big outing. It's Westchester University's athletic department.
Oh, great.
They'll be out on Sunday. So that's
Okay.
exciting as well. They're going to be impressed because they played last year and there were some grumbles. So this year they're going to be very happy. And I'm
Oh,
glad to
good.
provide it. So
Thank you very much.
you're very welcome.
Any other questions?
I have a question. Have you heard anything else from the family that came and they were having a problem with a lot of the golf balls getting hit on their
Yes.
lawn?
Malik and Talisha.
Yes.
Yes. Don and I are working together to come up with a plan for them. Something that keeps them safe and their lawn undamaged. It's easier said than done.
I can imagine.
It's a difficult thing, and we do have a lot of homes on the golf course that have the same exact concerns.
Wow.
Because
and-
of the fence.
Yeah, we're trying to solve them all at the same time, and some of them are playing tug of war with what they want.
So does netting actually remediate a lot of that problem from the balls actually leaving the range? Or?
I don't. Essentially, a net wouldn't be tall enough. You'd have to build a net to who knows where to
Wow.
block a golf ball.
Oh. And my other question, real quick, is there any incentives being created for summer camp golf?
We've actually been talking about clinics for the last month.
Okay.
We're hoping to build an actual summer camp. We do have clinics during the summer
For youth.
that are youth clinics that go throughout the summers. Everyone's out of school. We have separate clinics. So JT and I discussed on Monday, this past Monday, whether or not we could actually have an actual summer camp. He has some great ideas about working with some local schools and local other summer camps that offer different sports, that they can bring their camp students over to our golf course and enjoy the golf course. So there's a lot of ways to do it, and we're going to look at all the avenues and try to do them all if we can. It's great. We have a clinic going on right now. The West Bradford Youth Athletics is going on at the golf course right now. It's twice a week. And it's 30 kids, and they're just having a
We have
blast.
to get out there. See.
Oh, goodness.
That's great.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
Of course.
I'd like to see.
Anything else?
No,
No.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
course.
very much
Nicole.
for all the work you've been doing, Nicole.
Good report.
Next up, Minquist ambulance. Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners. Fairly busy month for us. Total calls for the month 154, 61, excuse me, 61 dispatched ALS, 93 dispatched BLS. Brings our total calls to the year to 471, 184 ALS and 287 BLS. Transport outcomes: 108 went to Chester County, 41 to Paoli, 2 to Chop of King of Prussia, 2 to DuPont, and 1 to Reading Hospital. Call outcomes: 58 transported BLS, 60 transported ALS, 15 treated refused transport, 10 no services, 1 treated transported ALS with an outside agency, 1 recalled on scene, 5 public assists, 3 refused care, and 1 recall en route. Average call times dispatched to en route is 1.8 minutes with a total call time of 75 minutes. Top call types is a BLS sick person, an ALS heart problem, BLS fall, and an ALS respiratory.
Busy.
It was very busy.
And it seems like the operation now is stable.
Very much so.
And Joel is doing a great job from everything I hear.
Yeah,
So,
between Joel, between Dave, Derek, and myself, we've made some leaps and bounds over the last couple months.
and the other ambulances, have you sold them yet, or are you
So we
still?
sold 1 ambulance and we sold 1 support vehicle, which was Explorer. Tower Health purchased them. We determined we didn't need to make the sale of the additional ambulance.
Okay.
More so as things stay busy, especially with turnaround times. Right, like you're familiar with the turnaround time for purchasing a new fire truck is 3 years. The ambulance isn't too far behind that. So we just have a rotation with an extra truck. And everything's still working very well.
I'm glad to hear that it's doing well. So, any questions from board members?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Chief.
Evening.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening.
I normally don't bring up parking complaints or parking issues unless someone, a resident or someone from the community brings it up, but a lot on social media, and I just became aware of it today. Actually, Director Stackhouse brought it to my attention. 1300 block of Olive Street. People are parking on the sidewalk.
Oh, good.
So I sent an officer out today, and there were 4 vehicles parked on the sidewalk. Politely try to identify the owners and give them a warning or tell them they couldn't park there. But there's so much stuff on social media, I guess these last few days about it, that Ray has been seeing or has heard about, that either may work its way to the manager or you. So I just, in the event you hear anything about it, there was a potential that someone, a resident, may show up tonight from Olive. I don't know. So, but again, just something to be aware of, that if you hear about it, we're in the process of addressing it. Vehicle code prohibits it.
No
Parking on the
parking.
sidewalk.
What's that?
Yeah.
People are
Parking on the dance floor.
Yeah.
no parking.
In the dirt. Are there sidewalks?
They're
down
parking
there?
on the sidewalk.
On the
They are
sidewalk.
on the sidewalk.
On completely obstructing the sidewalk.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Last few weeks, we have seen a wave cryptocurrency related frauds.
Hmm.
We get several walk-in complaints a week. We had one as recent as this afternoon. We've already had residents just in the last few weeks scammed out of thousands of dollars.
Oh my goodness.
Same kind of frauds, but this one involves scammers telling people that they have to pay them off in cryptocurrency, and their banks aren't reimbursing them.
Oh,
So they're going to be, unlike some frauds where you're
Bank,
the security, the bank will try to help you out.
Sure.
I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail about it. These frauds are coming through text messages, emails, phone calls, any social media, pop-up ads on people's home computers. Tracy put a post on our Facebook page today explaining about it and with advice to help people to prevent themselves from becoming a victim. So I'll leave that at that.
Thank you.
Last thing, on April 14th, we started police applicant testing. We had 26 applicants. 6 failed to show. 6 failed the physical agility portion of testing. 1 failed the written exam, so we're down to 13. Oral exams are scheduled the first week of May. As soon as we have those results, we'll formulate an eligibility list. Civil service, Ray mentioned earlier, we're planning a meeting with civil service anyway to incorporate the rules for firefighters. So we anticipate at that meeting they'll approve the eligibility list, and then we'll start background investigations at some point, probably mid-year, come to the board about hiring.
How many officers are
Never
you
do anything on April 14th. It's Titanic Day. April 14th. I don't do anything on April 14th.
I can't account for the 6 who didn't show, but the 6 who failed sank. So yeah, for them it definitely was Titanic Day.
Oh.
How many officers are we looking to hire this year?
We have, we have 1 vacancy that we didn't fill in January.
Okay.
We have an officer who's eligible to retire this summer. So I
At least 3.
you just never know. Hopefully we have sufficient number of names on the eligibility list, because we've talked about this before. We get to this point, once we start doing background investigations, they
Things
start
is
dropping like
dwindling,
flies.
yeah.
That's
So,
At least they're coming out from somewhere.
correct. Well,
Good,
I'll tell
bad,
you what,
right or wrong,
the turnout
but it was
has,
good.
we're starting to see
An increase.
better turnout.
Yeah.
I mean, recruitment and retention, there's probably not a police department in the country that aren't dealing with the same kind of issues that we are. So that's just,
Makes you feel better.
yeah. So unless any of you have any questions, I don't have anything to add.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Yep.
Sir.
Public Works.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
We just got, our park maintenance is, Mondays and Fridays, taking care of the, parks and everything like that, keeping them groomed, keeping them clean for the kids and everything. Road maintenance, potholes, we still dealing with potholes, filling potholes, and, we did a couple of, sinkholes up on North Barley Chief. Got that kind of stuff going. For our stormwater infrastructure, we started down Glen Ridge Drive this past Monday, the 22nd. So we'll be down there for a little bit. I'm probably estimating about a month and a half of work we got down there. So that's pretty much for just, I call it township maintenance. So keeping everything in order. Just maintaining the equipment we have down at the shop and everything. Everything's pretty much going smooth with that. So, you know, getting rid of the old trucks and trying to get the new stuff and keep the budget down with all the maintenance and everything. So that's a big thing. So doing good with that. And we did our line striping. We got our 3 bids for the line striping, and let's see, Guy Mark was the lowest they came in, 20,000. $217.18 for the 2024 season.
How many roads will that do?
I pretty much would do. I don't have the count right offhand.
You can
but
just send me
That's
that.
going to be a majority of our roads.
It will be a
done.
majority of them.
Yes.
Okay.
So when I was going around assessing the roads, stuff like municipal, the lines still look good on municipal. So all the roads that's like North Barley, Sheaf, Bailey, and north of us will be completed and done.
Go ahead.
Have we used this company before?
No, this will be the first time we use these guys that I know of.
Any other questions?
So
Well, we'll get through this motion, then I just have a question afterwards. The motion would be to authorize the board vice president to sign the quote from Guidemark Inc., pavement marking contractor as the lowest responsible bidder in the amount of $20,217.80 for the 2024 line striping on various township roads.
So moved.
Second. So moved by Commissioner Evans, second by Commissioner Tindaro. Are there any other questions on this? Anything on Zoom? No. Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Is there a way when we go down Geo Carlson to make the pedestrian crossings there a little more signage or something? Because I've seen some close calls, especially down here at North Bailey and Geo Carlson, because you have to kind of like zigzag, you have to frogger across because the trail changes from the south side to the north side, and you have to make two crossings there to get that. And people just don't seem to be paying attention. So I know that sometimes you can get the signs that you can put in the middle of the road that say yield to pedestrians, whether that, I've seen that sign in Marshallton, they actually moved it to the side of the road because so many people ran it over.
Yeah. We had it up on municipal too, and they trashed it.
So just something that would, because as we move into nicer weather, there are going to be more people walking on that path.
Right.
So if we can do something to make that more pedestrian friendly, especially there at North Bailey.
Okay.
Anything else for Public Works? Okay, well, I have two questions. Normally we'll take all the questions for the directors at the end. So let's just get through the Thorndale Fire Company, and then I'll take questions about the directors. Nothing else for Public Works, right?
Nope, thank you. No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Thorndale Volunteer Fire Company.
Good evening, everyone.
Okay.
We won't tell Commissioner Mullen the quickness of this meeting, but I like it. Just to kind of echo every other director in the regards of the word busy, our call volume for the first quarter of 2024 is up about 7.8%. So we're just as busy. Couple things that aren't on the report that I kind of want to bring up that we've seen on calls and reports throughout Chester County and even the United States. Apparatus crashes, especially here in Chester County, for people running red lights, things like that. While it's as much as the firefighters and the drivers have to pay much of attention, we've seen it where cars want to race us to get ahead of us, or they'll quickly try and get in behind us so they can bypass all the traffic. We just please ask for our safety and your safety. Please stop doing that.
Yeah.
It's a bigger hazard. And unfortunately through Chester County, within the last probably 2 months, we've seen a number of fire apparatus crashes, unfortunately, and that's putting unfortunately areas that rely heavily on these piece of apparatus that can often be replaced, as Chief Wagner said, for 3-4 years. If they're totaled, we're in the same boat. But again, I mean, that doesn't fall just on the public, it's just on us as much, but we've seen abundance, as well as and I believe there was a social media post last week about an incident on the bypass. The tree came down and people aren't pulling over and things. I'm terrified, I'm going to be honest, being on that bypass. We've had so many close calls. Every day we go up there, it's a close call for us People are flying by at 80 miles an hour. It's kind of to the point of, I wish we could pull people off to the side and say, you stand here. I want to go home. I want my firefighters, fire police officers, state police officers, want them all to go home to their families. Please just slow down, move over. As I'm sure many of you are aware, our engine was struck back in 2020 by somebody on the bypass. Again, try to want to avoid that, but we deal with close calls every day. We're up there. And finally, as we get into the warmer weather, the beautification of your homes and properties with mulch, please be aware of where you're discarding cigarettes, cigars, things like that. We actually just had a close call incident. We believed it was due to a cigarette, but down at St. Martha, where the sun's beating on mulch, we have it often here in the Giant parking lot, the Wawa on Reeseville Road. It goes and it goes quickly. So please just be aware of where you're discarding that.
Fresh chemicals on mulch.
Yeah, the chemicals in the mulch, and then depending upon what the building, you got it ruins all the plants in the specifically over here in the Giant parking and Coles, takes out all the bushes, or even if it's at your home, basically goes up the siding. Don't really want to see anybody, no offense. We want to see for good, not those types of reasons.
Right.
But just a couple things I did want to bring up.
I'm really sorry that, if this world, the rage on the roads, and we talk about this at every meeting, that ever since COVID, it's like this, get out of my way. And it's like, they're endangering your life. They're endangering your lives. Like, slow down. Like,
I give a lot of credit to Chief Elias and his officers. I couldn't I couldn't do it. So I give a lot of credit to you and your fellow officers for remaining calm with some of the stuff. And that was actually hours after we were on the bypass, where that cutting up a tree, and our biggest problem, which used to be the safest, is the semi trucks, and that they used to be going through at a nice cool pace. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No, there wasn't.
The best time for us to be up there is rush hour, unfortunately. And
yeah,
we all know what social media is like, from 5:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on the Route 30 bypass pages. But yeah, that unfortunately that's what we're dealing with on a very regular basis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now I'll entertain any questions that people might have from the directors. If you're here in the building, if you can come up and give your name and address. Not everybody at once.
Take it to.
Mark Fox, 256 Thornridge.
Hey, Mark.
How you doing?
I'm not.
In light of what our first responders go through, my question probably pales in comparison to some of that, but it is in line with it. How do we get more speed limit signs on Geo Carlson specifically? If you come out from here and make a left-hand turn to go towards Bondsville Road, there's one sign that's obstructed by a tree, and then you don't see another one, at least until you get to the light. And I think that contributes a lot to some of the local speeding, because there's nothing to remind you what the actual speed limit is. And I walk on that road a lot, and I stopped walking on it because I got pissed off at all the speeders. So, and I was looking at it, and there's no signs. I mean, you make a turn, there's a sign maybe right there where there's a entry point, but then there's nothing else until the next entry point. And it just seems to me that that's a long way to go without additional stop signs. I mean, speed limit signs.
We can definitely look into that.
Thanks,
So
Mark.
PennDOT has requirements for posting speed limit signs. They have to be posted no more than a half a mile apart. And then there's signs that have to be posted when the speed reduces from a higher speed to a lower speed. I could take a drive through there and check on placement, location, and see if. I agree. Unfortunately, we could have 100 speed signs along that road. And I'm not making any excuses for anyone, and they just are oblivious. I mean, we put those speed trailers out with flashing signs when people are going over the speed limit. The results are shocking, and that's literally flashing in your face
Yeah.
and going above the speed limit. But I'll look at it.
help.
The other thing is, if our officers, even if they're not doing a speed trap, if they can just sit like at our entrance down here, the presence of an officer, everybody then goes, oh my gosh, you know, they're gonna do speed traps there, and because
They'll
there's
think
places around
twice.
Chester County you drive, and then everybody slows down right here because they know they always do speed traps there. So, you know, just parking along Geo Carlson if we can might actually.
Well, there are people who go through this stop sign at Geo and Municipal without even touching the brakes.
Oh, well.
Because we sit sometimes in the end of the parking lot of the township building or this little sewer
Mm-hmm.
structure.
Yeah.
And it just, you hit it. I mean, people are people. I'll leave it at
Put a car out there with a little dummy in it, you know,
Yeah,
the
that's it.
little dummy officer in the car.
Just put a little
Stop,
cardboard
'cause they're
cutout.
looking.
There's
Who's
a
in the
person
car?
in the
They see the
car.
I was
car,
in the
but they
state
don't
police.
actually
We
see a
started putting
person.
mannequins in vehicles
Yeah.
dressed in a
Very
state police
well.
uniform. And I remember on one of
They
the
used to do
interstates in
that.
Harrisburg, the dummy leaned.
He fell over.
And no one got out there in a while to sit it
Sit him back
upright.
up.
And some smart aleck with something wrote on the state police vehicle, Trooper Eileen.
Oh, but they use them a lot, and they do make you slow down. And, whoa, there's a cop, and then you go by and realize, whoa, he's not breathing.
He's not.
Well, the best thing that could happen in Pennsylvania to help better enforce the speed limit is for municipal police officers to be able to use radar.
Radar.
Because the only way we could really
Yeah.
enforce it is by painting lines on roads. I mean, and
That doesn't.
it just,
No matter what.
now, we're the only state in the country where municipal police can't use radar. With radar, you could move, you could enforce it at any location.
We need to get some
with just one
petitions or
officer,
something.
right?
What's that?
With just one officer,
One
not a
officer.
team of
Right.
Right.
Or one officer running radar and then multiple cars actually
intercepting.
intercept, correct?
That would help.
Any other questions for the directors?
No.
Anything online, Denise? Okay, so we'll move on to additional business. Does anybody have any additional business?
I'd like to read the phone book.
No. I'm trying to beat Jane's time here.
Well, you better hurry up.
Yeah, we're coming in.
Seeing
Help
no
you in a
additional
minute.
business, we'll go on to public comment. Is there any public comment? I see none here in the township building. Anything online? Nothing online, so we will move to adjournment.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Thank you.
Great meeting, Commissioner.
Thank you, everyone. Great job, Josh.
Good job. Good agenda.
Good meeting.